unlock ppgod quite a bit from that bottom side of the map, and kind of frees him up when it comes to the champion pool as well. He can play pretty much whatever he wants. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back towards some of these hard engaged supports. Like, when I think of ppgod last year was plays on like Threshes, Leonas, Alistairs, like this is what I'd like to see him go back towards. But Viego locked in here, again, massive flex pick, can get a jungle, we've seen it mid, potential to go top as well, although depending on where this set goes, you may not want to take the Viego up to that direction. But on the opposite side, LNG more than likely going back towards some sort of heavy aggressive dive composition with the Sett. Kaisa now locked in. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lwandy go towards a Leona or an Alistairs himself here, just to try and set up for that. And now you're looking at a very strong kind of kill lane in the bottom side. You can look to play towards Tarzan, which is kind of become the LNG bread and butter. Or they can try and go for something a little bit like the Olaf here as well, just to try and facilitate Tarzan's champion pool, and also go again into this kind of more, hey, we're just going to run you down style.
Yeah, very much a lot of engage, a lot of dive potential here. You got the Sett, of course, Leona, and of course the Kaisa comboing very, very well together. And we'll see now BLG. They want to blind the Gnar. Pretty safe pick going up into that top side. It means that, you know, Ale will be either getting himself a lot of bans towards him in the second phase, or he'll be going towards that Sett himself in that top side. But no, LeBlanc going to be the lock-in here for BLG and for Zeka. So now we're going to see them looking to try and just ban away a lot of things into this jungle that can combo well with the Sett.
It's interesting to see the rise in LeBlanc. Like, we've kind of seen her come in a little bit more now. She's a champion that kind of relies to a certain extent on help from the jungle, because it's rare that you're going to be able to get a 1v1 kill in that mid lane, but definitely something that can do a lot of work when it gets out of lane, have a lot of roam potential, and then obviously you're looking to try and have a bit of a side lane push into joining your team and trying to assassinate members of LNG coming in on the flanks. But we'll have to see if we're going to be able to get that from Zeka, as we are going to be looking at bans coming through towards the Diana, towards these junglers. Wouldn't be surprised to see something like the Lee Sin, or even the likes. Actually, Nocturne's already off board, so honestly we're kind of right the way down in our jungle pool at this stage.
Curious to see now what BLG want to focus out. They have got first pick coming out of the second round of bans, so we'll be curious to see what they want to go for. And the Jace ban here as well from the side of LNG, they recognize that there's just a lot of straight up burst damage already from the side of BLG with the Viego, not Diego, excuse me, as there's a none ban here from the side of BLG. They do not get one there. The Gnar are going to be the final one there from LNG, but BLG, they now have an opportunity to pick themselves up their jungler or their top laner, almost certainly. Oh, sorry, excuse me. They're going to be taking up their. They can take up their support and still leave that Viego to be a flex between jungle and top.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they decide to go for. Nautilus has become the go-to as a kind of counter to Leona, where basically you take as she goes for the Zenith Blade, you can buff your hook. The Zenith Blade lands right as the hook connects, and you've got enough time as Nautilus, as long as you don't auto-attack, to walk away. You can also get the slow from your E to prevent any sort of follow-up CC, and it makes it very hard for the Leona without the solar flare to make these plays work. But it doesn't matter. ppgod is actually just going to go back towards these enchanter supports, ends up going for the Karma there. And we could see this flex towards BiuBiu, but it has been traditionally ppgod's pick.
Ooh, I like this though from LNG. They picked themselves up the Echoes. That is a jungle that we have not seen in a very, very long time. That just opens up so many more opportunities here for the side of LNG to kind of pick whatever the hell they like into the solo lanes. You know, they've got themselves a nice damage profile of AD and AP, and they can rotate around depending on what they think suits them. Ooh, nice. Okay, big aggression.
Yeah, I really like this, because basically now you're saying, right, there is nothing really that beats this set in the top lane. So you get the top lane push, you get that mid lane push thanks to Lucian as well, which frees up Tarzan on this Ekko to not really worry about any sort of shenanigans coming through from WeiWei. He should always have the support of his top side of the map, and hell, even the bottom side of the map with this Kaisa. So I really like this Ekko pick right now, because you can get a ton of farming done. You have a ton of lanes that you can try and play around as well with the Leona and that Sett. Like, you're in a great spot here as Tarzan.
A lot of things to be able to set you up with. The Wukong as the final pick there, of course, for BiuBiu going into that top side. Still a difficult matchup for the Wukong into the Sett. We'll see how that one all goes. But I think for LNG, they are going to be melting objectives if they're able to get onto it. Towers, dragons, barons, it does not matter. They will be able to fully take those down in 20-30 seconds, even at the 22-23 minute mark. So you have to be on point here if you're on BLG to make sure you're not giving LNG that time.
I think as well, looking across at the BLG lineup, you're certainly in a situation where you need to try and hit hard in that mid game. Like, you've got the Ezreal, you've got this LeBlanc. Like, you need to make sure that you are the ones that are going aggressive here, because again, you don't really have a situation where you can look to scale into that late game. The double AD carry is going to do so much work in the later portion of the game, especially since you don't really have access to a true frontliner. Now, yes, you can get a lot of work done with, say, like the double Divine Thunder build that could come through for the Wukong and the Viego, but that's still not going to be quite enough to deal with just how much power is going to be packed between the Lucian and the Kaisa.
What I want to see from LNG is, as we said, when they get a lead, they accelerate that lead and they look fantastic, but they do stall out if they're not able to get ahead. It's up to BLG to stop the snowball, to stop the gold from racking against them, and to get themselves into those mid to late game team fights where they should be able to have a little bit of an advantage. But it's all about how it all gets played out. LNG versus BLG, game 2, jumping onto the Rift. And I'm curious to see how Tarzan works with this Ekko jungle. It's something we haven't seen. It's definitely what we would call a fringe pick as of late, but can still do a hell of a lot as BLG find themselves in the enemy red buff.
So BLG, it looks like they're trying to split the map. I actually kind of like this, because if you're able to do so, it means that, look, yes, you can have Tarzan play up towards Ali in the top side, but BiuBiu can play that relatively safe. But it opens up the likes of this Viego to put a heap of pressure down towards like Lwandy, and constantly have pressure on towards Icon in the mid lane as well, who takes a heap of damage there.
Yeah, need to be careful. That Mantra Q from ppgod going to do a hell of a lot, and they did it just before the minions arrived, so you know that he cannot go back. Ale now here, I think he's actually going to look to try and contest this one. This is very difficult to contest from LNG. They don't have a lot of poke, and they're just waiting, delaying everything. Everyone is still here. All 10 players are in this bottom quadrant of the map.
Yeah, you can see Icon trying to push in mid, so at least if LNG have to leave, which it looks like they might, they'll still get the advantage. But it looks like, as you can see, Zeka, he's got to go and collect that mid wave, or he's going to fall too far behind. So now you actually get to push BLG off of this bottom side. WeiWei's going to be super far behind, it is clear, and this play doesn't work from BLG.
Little Raptor there being annoying as hell towards Icon, as just randomly decided I'm going to leave everybody here and go towards the recalling Lucian. But yeah, it honestly puts Viego much further behind, at least a camp in terms of timing, behind this Ekko. And you can see now with Ale and BiuBiu only making it to the wave now, there's a little bit of a CS lead here for the top laner of BLG, so we'll be hitting that level 2 much earlier than the Sett, and is able to put down a little bit of hurt.
Yeah, it gets that nice trade, uses the W as well to dodge away from the Haymaker, so does a nice job there for BiuBiu. But I want to go back and look at what this means for the mid-jungle 2v2, right? Because I was actually going to look and say, hey, look, Zeka, if you're on a pick like this LeBlanc, and you manage to lash your chains onto Icon, you can do so much with WeiWei to burst down Icon. And if you can even force Icon into lane, he's running the Ignite. He doesn't have the teleport that we usually see in this Lucian, so if he's forced out, that hurts way more than usual. But because WeiWei's that little bit far behind, it buys a lot more space for Tarzan. He can go for a quicker clear. He can help support Icon in this mid lane before WeiWei would be able to get in and deal a whole bunch of problems. But you can see already, like, even with that WeiWei, level 3 versus the level 2 of Tarzan, who hasn't quite been able to clear as fast.
Not quite as fast, did skip out on his Krugs, so still has that in the bot side of the map. As we can see, WeiWei just kind of quickly leaving his Raptors to go take away the Scuttle Crab. Make sure that they do not give over that free camp to the Ekko, and we'll see how these junglers path going into the mid to late game, or early to mid game, I should say. And again, not a lot really going to be happening around the side. ppgod and aiming should be really damn safe as an Ezreal Karma. Shouldn't really be in much danger unless they get really caught out. And the jungles are going to have a little bit of an issue trying to make anything happen in these solo lanes until they hit level 6.
You can see, though, for LNG, they are pretty heavily looking towards this mid game. If you look at like the choice of runes from Tarzan, we don't actually get the Dark Harvest. Now, Dark Harvest tends to scale a little bit better, and when you see it, you're trying to obviously play for that later portion of the game. But with that Electrocute, he wants to be getting into lanes. He wants to be getting a lot of damage off very quickly and trying to snowball this game out of the hands of BLG. Now, Ale in a tough position here topside. Like, this is easy for BiuBiu to freeze. BiuBiu's been trading really well here, and when you know that you're going to have WeiWei on the top side of the map, this is horrific for Ale.
Yeah, Ally needs some help pretty soon to be able to reset that wave. Needs to be playing very defensively. Has got the ward in the brush in the river, so knows that he's not immediately going to be caught out, but still very difficult position for him to be in, and he's falling back just behind a little CS every now and again. As we see Tarzan going to be spotted on this ward, so they know exactly where this Ekko is starting.
It does just give more credence, though, towards BLG in the top side. You can see BiuBiu is still holding that back. About a 200 gold lead already, just from the way BiuBiu has been able to play out this lane. So, nice job by the top laner for BLG. But again, we need to see a little bit more coming out from the likes of WeiWei and Zeka here. Because Zeka, with this LeBlanc, wants to get snowballing, wants to get ahead so then she can be relevant. But if she's stuck in this lane against Icon, who can just continuously push in, that's never going to be the case. So, I want to see WeiWei trying to work in conjunction with Zeka in this early game to get this LeBlanc relevant.
Yeah, and more important to get this LeBlanc going as well is the fact that you have got a cull onto Icon as well. So the longer this, kind of stalemate of push in, back off, push in, back off with nothing really changing, the more he actually benefits. He gets towards his item spikes a little bit quicker. He's the one who gets that little bit of extra gold, and he's in no danger whatsoever. And you can see there, forcing the teleport now out of Zeka, who has to go back. Does pick up the Sorcerer Shoes. Will be able to just stop the back and get the trains down as well. Viego is around. They need to be very careful here if you're the side of LNG. Zeka trying to just trade this one as best he can. There goes the culling down on top of the LeBlanc, but not able to get any of that really going for him. And BiuBiu is already behind the blue buff. They got to flash in, flash forward, trying to find something here. But ppgod is there to deflect any kind of recall damage. And that's going to be first blood over to BLG again.
And that's massive again because Icon is running this ignite. They stop the back so he doesn't get the they stop the back, get the kill, and now he can't get back to lane. So he's in a really bad spot as maybe we get the trade back here though.
No,
nice job
the decoy. Yeah, he got the decoy, able to just kind of get himself out of that one there. Fortunately for Tarzan, the Ekko stun is pretty telegraphed, if I'm being honest. It's very obvious when it's coming down, and it's not really that easy to set up as a sneaky little trap. So did try something, fortunately doesn't really amount into anything, and BLG with their 1,000 gold lead coming in now into the 7 minutes marker. They've got themselves an early lead, similar to the game one, but this time Zeka on something that can use that early game snowball.
Yeah, and I'm going to just highlight here, like, how having Ignite here can actually make such a big difference, right? Because obviously Icon goes down, right? But because he's not able to TP back to mid, Lwandy moves up to mid to try and hold the wave. This gives the opportunity now for Aiming and ppgod to push in a bot side. They're afraid to get these turret plates. Light can't really address the wave because of the short range and the sheer amount of poke by Aiming and ppgod. And that's why, like, what is a 300 gold or 400 gold coming through from the first blood then balloons into more. So if you're not actually getting value out of this Ignite, especially in competitive play, it very, very quickly snowballs out of control because teams know how to punish every little misstep as you try and correct the faults that have happened.
Well, we'll see if they're able to do anything with this Ignite in mid lane. LNG still waiting to see if they can make this kind of snowball work like we talked about. Is going to be a ways away. Still dragging on the board. It's going to be a Mountain Drake, I believe, on the map. It's Mountain on the map, and top left says Clouds, so not quite sure. I'm going to go with the map that says Mountain. I'm going to trust the Rift on this one. You can't trust graphics sometimes.
No. We actually have a different map to stop stream snipers, so that's a fake map. Yeah.
That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? That would be pretty cool. That's a tool.
As an analyst, that would drive me insane.
Oh,
I don't know if I can trust
absolutely. I meant more for streamers, I meant more for like competitive streamers or anything like that. They could get away with that kind of setup, but we'll see now if anyone wants to try and make anything work in this early game. Is still very much advantage to BLG. You can see with this Karma Ezreal, once Light is by himself, and like you mentioned, Lwandy having to kind of shadow around, make sure there's nothing happening or no fire is being started in any of the other lanes, it does become very difficult for this Kaisa to do anything. Has to play respectful, has to back away, just because the burst is insane when you have a Karma Ezreal.
And don't even forget, because we were highlighting like how much Zeka could look for, like if he got ahead, how big of an impact he could have, he gets the roam down towards Aiming and ppgod, or they just set up for the kill.
They just straight up go in on top of him, and that is Icon dead to rights. No flash, no way out, and that's going to see Tarzan. He's actually on a ward, so they know exactly where he is. Zeka going off to the side, though, to try and land the chains. Ale is here. I don't know if you want to go for this one, though, because you got Karma in the mid lane and, of course, BiuBiu from the top side roaming down. LNG slow again in this early game. This is not the composition, again, that wants to be falling this far behind.
No, but it also means that BLG will be able to turn towards this Rift Herald. And hey, look, we were talking about, I wanted to see plays coming through from BLG, where they were the ones that are being proactive in the early stage. Well, we're getting to see that here. Kill on towards Zeka, with a ppgod roaming up. Now WeiWei working towards the mid lane as well, and they may get more.
Here we go. We're going to see the Cyclone popped off to try and stop Lwandy, but there is Icon there, so they need to be very, very careful. Tarzan trying to see if he can go in on top of this, but did not respect the second knock-up advantage that you have with that Wukong. They do stop the Rift Herald from going down, or do they actually?
They
I have
got
to
it.
check that.
The
I think
WeiWei
they got it,
us,
did
yeah.
they? Yeah, they
WeiWei
got
passed
it
it in
end,
his
so.
pocket, so they don't get anything out of it. And now again, like, you're under so much pressure here because BLG, they're just going to turn up the heat. WeiWei now can move in towards this mid lane. You've already got chip damage there. Hell, you've even got the 3 plates only surviving on that bottom side. So let's get WeiWei down there, get some going in towards Amy's pocket. There's so much that you can do here to make these plays work. And for Icon, he's lost control of this mid lane now, which means Zeka is free to roam. And especially when you've got, like, say, Ale here, who's trying to punish this lane, push in underneath that turret, he leaves himself vulnerable. But also, like Lwandy, are sitting ducks for any sort of dive play.
Yeah, you have to be so careful now, and it's snowballing a little bit out of control. You need to put the wheels back on the car right now, LNG. But for BLG, you're flying. You are looking at that snowball and the avalanche that's coming down. You're just like proud with your hands on your hip and smiling, knowing that you've done a good job in this early game. They need to keep it going, though. Again, one of the big things we saw from the last game was they had an early game and it didn't commit into a mid game or late game.
Sorry, that's a little bit sadistic. See, yeah, I started that avalanche, and whoever's at the bottom, they're screwed, but I'm proud of it. That's it.
That's it. It's like LNG's the village at the bottom, and it's just that little kid at the top being like, I did this. The avalanche comes down. But we'll see. You know, it's still very early on in the game, still only about 12 minutes down. No dragons have been taken, so I'm not going to see a soul for a very, very long time. And we'll wait to see now what way they want to kind of, you know, transition this lead they have. It looks like, you mentioned it, the bot lane, get way down here, get that dive going, and get that Rift Herald to get those plates.
Yeah, you can see as well, Zeka, he's just moving in to just make sure that they got a little bit more control there, but realizes, hey, look, we don't need any help here. They get that bottom lane turret. You've now got that Divine Sunder picked up super early from Amy, and when you finish that Divine Sunder Muramana, you are insanely strong as this is. So bot side?
Oh, gets caught. ppgod just straight up deleted from the map, and Amy has to head for the hills. Tarzan is here, and WeiWei doesn't really know the parallel convergence coming in on top of him. Has to back away just now. Zeka does land the chains, but needs to back away as well, as Tarzan is just following in tow. We can see now Tarzan with Icon into this mid lane, able to turn this one around. And again, BLG, they just get caught out a little bit. This is the same kind of criticism we had of ppgod in his first series. I'm going to pause myself just a little bit, as they're going to try and get a little more damage onto Tarzan. But ppgod just randomly getting caught was a big problem in BLG's first series as well.
Yeah, and in that series against EDG, they were so much, like, they were constantly punishing it. Especially when we saw the likes of Tam Kench, they were able to pick him off in the early stages as well. So I'm not entirely sure what's happening with ppgod. Like, he looked absolutely amazing when he joined V5 in in spring 2020, because we were looking going, hey, look, this guy trained under Crisp on FPX. He's been playing on FPX Blaze. Ton of teams are interested in him. And then he came onto V5. We're like, God damn, this guy looks insane. But we got to spring 2021. We're like, all right, what's happening, ppgod? You're a little bit quiet there. We kind of passed it off as, oh, you know, without Sam D by his side, ppgod doesn't have the same impact. But now we're kind of seeing, even when we moves over to a different team, he's got a stronger AD carry in aiming by his side. We're still seeing these missteps coming through from ppgod.
Gonna have to shore those ones up if he really wants to try and get this team going into the later stages of the season with a good playoff chance. As we can see, LNG just mitigating a lot of the pressure that's coming out right now. But as I say that, WeiWei pushing it down on top of this blue buff. There is a lot of resets coming in here, though, for the side of LNG, so I don't think Tarzan really wants to fight this.
Now, he's going to just move away. ppgod now unlocked because Amy's in a perfectly fine situation. He's just going to stick by WeiWei for a large portion of this, although Lwandy now in position as well with light. Means maybe WeiWei isn't as convinced he can win this anymore.
Maybe, or maybe he's just waiting a little bit longer for you to see the rest of his team coming in. WeiWei taking a lot of punishment as Zeka goes back over the wall off of his distortion. And finds himself in a little bit of an advantage now into this mid lane, trying to just push that one in, take that tower down. If you can open up that mid lane, specifically for someone like a LeBlanc, it just becomes so difficult for the rest of the enemy team to deal with your roaming. So curious to see if they're able to knock that one down anytime soon and open up Zeka to the rest of the map.
I will say, though, that BLG are in a pretty strong spot right now if they want to try and go for some of these objectives. Because, as you said, Rift Herald up in just a few, but you've pretty much got your Mythic Items complete across the board, apart from mid-jungle. But the double Divine Sunder and even the Immortal Shield Bow completed for WeiWei is going to give them so much control in these fights. And WeiWei not opting for the Divine Sunder because in a matchup where there's such low health bars pretty much across the board, you don't get as much value out of the Divine Sunder. So instead, going for the Immortal Shield Bow does well against the burst potential that you can see coming through from the likes of Ale and Tarzan, and will also give you the opportunity to, lifesteal more effectively and have more of an impact against the lower health members of LNG.
And for BLG, CS leads across the board pretty much. They, of course, just reset aiming into the base, so he's going to be pushing back out now on top of this one here. But Zeka's got himself about a 10 CS lead. You've got a 10 CS lead in the top lane as well. Only really kind of equaled out in the bot lane for Light versus aiming. So little small advantages that are accruing towards this 2,000 gold lead. And when a minute 20 until that dragon spawns, I'm not going to trust that it's a Cloud Drake just yet until I see it on the map. But we'll see now and wait to see what BLG wants to do. Do they want to force the issue? Do they want to try and still scale up with the items? Still waiting to see what their kind of grand plan will be.
I was really hoping the camera would swap to BiuBiu fast enough that we'd be able to see what the dragon is. But look, either way, BLG, they are pretty much in prime position to take it, right? They're going to get this Rift Herald on the top side, although Tarzan maybe trying to contest. I'm not convinced by this one, especially with where the rest of his team are. But if BLG get the Rift Herald, right, you turn towards mid. Now you get the automatic prio with the Rift Herald. It makes it very easy to move down into that bottom side. And especially when you've got, like, Zeka, who's got that teleport, who can make a lot of plays. BiuBiu as well, actually the only person with the teleport available on the map. You can then look to play the map out.
Well, we'll see if they play the map out. Rift Herald did go down in favor of BLG, but important to notice there is a Gale Force for the side of the Lucian. As they jump in, Lwandy trying to see if he can catch out WeiWei. Now with everything kind of down and out, they need to try and back themselves away. You can see the Cyclone used by BiuBiu. Flashed in, doesn't really get much more purchase from it, and it's a big team fighting tool not available for this potential dragon fight.
True, but it also does give the opportunity for BLG here to go, right, we actually need that time for WeiWei to come back at the base. They can throw down this Rift Herald, although I was going to say mid, but actually WeiWei's the one in top lane that has that, but looks like they'll still get a turret for it. They're going to try and create pressure elsewhere, potentially give up whatever. I'd actually use a Cloud Drake this time, but give up that Cloud Drake in lieu of looking for the Ocean or more Infernal dragons later.
Gotta be careful, though, if you're on the side of LNG. They did not use Rift Herald topside. They were just able to take down that turret without committing to using the buff. So you still have that little bit of a push potential, and you can see WeiWei, I think he's feeling like, well, we don't need it for topside. Let's use it in mid if we so need it. And that turret is pretty much the perfect HP for a Rift Herald to bang its head into and take down.
Alright, so as this game starts to go on, right, I just want to, again, come back towards Icon's choice of Summer Spell, because Zeka, as you can see, can do a pretty damn good job against a lot of these AD carries, and especially when he's going to be able to play off the side lane with BLG having the control of the map and the tempo advantage. You can set BiuBiu off against Ale as well, and you are always down a man then as LNG, because Zeka can take these turrets pretty well. And if Icon is not there to try and deal with it, or Tarzan isn't there to deal with it, well then you actually just end up in a situation where BLG go, cool, we'll just take all your turrets with our 131. And if the LNG try to contest, you know you've got the teleport advantage for Zeka, and he can just find these nice opportunities to come in on flanks off of those teleport plays.
Yeah, honestly, it feels like right now BLG 3,000 gold ahead, or 3,500 almost at this stage for themselves. The Dragon Soul isn't really a win condition at the moment for LNG. They've got one Drake, and there's not going to be a soul for at minimum, you know, another 10 minutes or so. So, or sorry, excuse me, 12 minutes or so. So, got lots of time before that becomes a relative issue for the side of BLG. And yeah, I feel like this, you know, like I said, the Summoner spell not really working out for the side of LNG, and they weren't really able to make anything happen with this Lucian, who is 0-2. The 2 deaths on the side of LNG were in that mid lane. Just good prioritization of pressure here from BLG.
I just really don't understand it, especially when you're going with this kind of like jungler that doesn't have early game pressure. I can understand, obviously, for the Ignite, you want to make sure that you can trade effectively against Zeka, but unfortunately, like, it gives up so much pressure on the map, and now you're going to start feeling the brunt of that, right? Look, Zeka top side, you got BiuBiu pushing in bot, the rest of BLG are pretty happy to just try and poke and prod underneath this tower. You've got a lot of poke with ppgod and aiming, and a lot of safety as well with the Shrelias, the shields, and the movement speed buff that Karma can give, and even just the ability for Ezreal to arcane shift away.
Well, Rift Herald now spawned with this next minion wave popping itself in, as we see Lwandy just menacing the Zenith Blade. But BiuBiu is onto the backside. So will this Rift Herald charge get enough of a down? They go in straight away. They do get the showstopper, and that's ppgod dead again. BiuBiu cannot get into this fight. Lwandy gonna go golden as they get the nice solar flare down. WeiWei is next to follow. Again and again, I have to call him out. ppgod just in the wrong position, and LNG capitalize on it.
Yeah, the flash forward from Ale was really good. The biggest issue there was that BLG were trying to, you know, jump the gun. They hadn't got their top wave in a position. Bot lane wasn't in a position either, which means that LNG find that window of opportunity to fully collapse onto the mid lane before BLG are able to mount any sort of offense elsewhere. So LNG get that perfect window. They get that catch with the flash drive breaker from Ale, and we're going to see it here, right? Look where the waves are on bottom top. There's just no pressure on the map for LNG, so they're able to collapse faster, and they get that pick. And from that point forward, I mean, yes, you can try and like regain control of this fight for BLG, but it's already lost. You're a man down, you're not in the position to try and fight, and you're running for the hills.
It's a nice little bit of cash injected now back into the pockets of LNG. Still down about 2,000 gold, so not exactly, you know, in a winning or an advantageous position, but definitely feeling an awful lot better about it. They will have to wait, of course, for flashes to come back up, but they actually only wasted the one. It was actually literally Ale's flash, and that was it. And, you know, no one had time on the side of BLG to really waste theirs, because at the point of which they, you know, got caught and killed, the damage was done. It would have been a waste of a flash anyway.
And this actually buys a good bit of, not only the gold, obviously, for LNG, but just trying to get back control of some of their own jungle, get these waves into a position where it's not as easy for BLG to play at these side lanes. And you can see here, right, Dragon in 50 seconds, both teams will be eyeing that up, and when you can't really shove in these waves as hard as you'd like as BLG, it's not as easy for you to just fall back and take that objective.
Yeah, well, like, Light right now has two items. He's got the Collector and the Kraken Slayer, so the wave clear is very much there now for the side of LNG to, like, leave him in the mid lane or a side lane just to, you know, soak up those, you know, XP and that gold from the minions. So you've got a lot of opportunities to be able to cash in all of these different camps, put pressure around the map, and really set up for things. And even then, like I mentioned earlier, it's a dragon apiece. This Infernal Drake in 20 seconds means nothing to either of these sides, so both sides will be happy to let it go if the other team wants to hard commit to it.
Yeah, I will say though, like, especially on when I'm looking at like the BLG items, as you were kind of talking about, you've hit like critical mass here for aiming. You've got your two items. He's now working towards the Frozen Heart. You're in a really good spot here as well as Zeka. So I think is what actually, honestly, I'm not even going to care about the items because it doesn't look like we're going to get a fight for this dragon anyway, because we're just going to trade both sides of the map. Tier 1 for Tier 2, definitely an upgrade for BLG, and also the dragon and Lu as well. So LNG, they're trying to find ways to trade back, but without the access to another teleport, they've had to commit several different members, and it's just not quite working out in the same way.
And means they also have to give up with losing that tier 2 in the bot side and in the mid lane. They do end up kind of forfeiting the rest of their jungle controls. So you can see the camps being stolen away. We should start to see Tarzan really struggle to kind of get as much gold as he possibly wants to get those items finished up for his Lich Bane. It's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, but we have seen it before in this game, in this series, where one opportunity, one misstep, one mistake is all that is necessary for the side of LNG to capitalize. And for BLG, you're in the winning position. You're the ones that are going to be feeling very, very powerful right now. You need to be the ones that are dictating the pace, pushing the advantages that you have.
This time, though, you can see BLG are taking a little bit slower, right? Zeka is now in that top lane, actually pushing in at about the same time that this mid lane wave should hit. So now BLG are actually working as a team. Ale is down on this bottom side trying to see if he can trade, but again, it'd be a tier 1 for a tier 2, and Ale realizes he needs to get out of here.
Has TP available to him, but no really good wards. There is a couple of pink wards right at the back of that pit, but Icon taking so much punishment does just miss out the true shot barrage. But actually, Ally decides, you know what, I can't fight this anyway because of the damage that's been done, and they will just end up trading a tier 1 for a tier 2. But good wave clear here from Light means that they're not quite able to take that trade just yet. But Baron is on the cards. There is TP available, though, for the side of LNG. They may just try and look for this fight, but it might be too late. BLG could melt this.
Yeah, and you're going to do a lot of damage here between BiuBiu, WeiWei, and also Ezreal. You're going to shred through this thing. You can see TP from Ale.
They got it out of him. That's all they wanted. They just wanted the TP. They just wanted to bait out that global, the only global that you have on top of your team for Ale. As we can see now, WeiWei has to get himself away, as he sees himself now kind of maybe getting a little caught out. The mist's going to be his best friend as he gets himself scurrying away. But yeah, now you've gotten that TP. You could go back to that Baron bait again. Ale has to be around mid lane or top in order to be available for that fight.
Yeah, so essentially the way you can play this is BiuBiu rightfully in the bottom lane right here. You have Zeka shove in mid, and you have the 3-man unit of BLG pushing in this top side. You then threaten top tier 2. You've got the opportunity for Zeka to always come and join you because the mobility that this LeBlanc has is so easy to cross that terrain. And then at any point in time, if you see Ale or multiple people down in that bot lane, you just hard commit for the Baron, and with all the vision that they've already gained in the LNG jungle, you're going to have brilliant flank positions for BiuBiu.
Bit of a slower game than we're used to here. Both teams neither wanting to be the reason their team loses. So we can see now WeiWei just using that miss to his advantage, making sure he can walk up securely and not get caught out by anybody before he goes for the scuttle. Gain that extra little bit of vision control. And again, this is going to be kind of BLG in the driver's seat. BLG are the ones that have got the advantage in this game. They're 3,000 gold up or just a little bit under it. They have been that for a little while now, so it's not really going anywhere anytime soon. But, you know, you're looking at Sterix Gauge on top of the Divine Sunderer for your Wukong. You've got the Randuin second item here for WeiWei. So the front line is there for the side of BLG, and you will have your second item here for Zeka very, very shortly as well. So they're very much online.
It's a big thing, though, is just, like, again, trying to get down these towers. Now, we're looking at BLG's map. It is not really these waves linking up again. BiuBiu is not on that bottom side, so they're not spreading out the map as much as they could, but Tarzan could be in trouble here.
A little bit of trouble. BiuBiu does fight forward as Lwandy is kind of just playing bouncer right now. No one really commits. No one wants to commit too hard because we've seen now twice, whereas, you know, BLG, they kind of overcommit to something a little bit too early, or they, you know, don't get all their ducks in a row and they get bitten pretty hard for it. So just want to try and make sure they dot their I's and cross their T's correctly. I don't think you cross E's anymore, unless you're in Ireland.
I mean, on
you
one
put a
side,
cross
right?
on top
You
of it.
Yeah,
true. Unless you have a, a fodder in Ireland, you put a cross on top of it. But 55 seconds now until this dragon spawns. Zeka going forward. You can see the stride breaker there from Ale. But important to note is that all summoners are available. TP will be available there for Zeka. Unfortunately for Ale, there's none for another minute or 2 minutes or so. And you are going to be able to try and, force an engage here from the side of LNG. BLG need to try and bait that out. That's exactly what they're going to try and do, is they're looking to try and take this Baron.
The big thing, though, is, like, play around BiuBiu. BiuBiu should be bot side on that big wave that's about to crash. Like, the whole reason you're trying to play this style for BLG is because you want BiuBiu to be able to threaten a turret. Hell, you've even got Zeka with the TP there as well. Put both them down in that bot lane. Have the rest of the team threaten this Baron and actually use the fact that you've got this teleport advantage. Even, like, neither Icon or Ally have it available. So you can actually look to play through this summoner spell, but BLG not quite working in that way just yet.
Yeah, but LNG are just kind of letting this wave go down. They know they can't leave just yet. Tarzan takes a huge chunk. WeiWei gets jumped on by Lwandy, but Lwandy now in a lot of trouble. He's forced to flash away. Now you can see the jungle and support so low. Ale on the backside. There's the culling to try and keep everyone away. Solar Flare just a delay. Good showstopper to start it off, though, and that could be a good fight here for LNG. They lose the Leona, but they gain the Karma and the Viego with the 3v3 coming into this fight. But look at the damage here from the Ezreal. The Divine Sunderer is just doing too damn much. It's a double on top of it for a double for Ezreal, and that's going to be 5 for 2. It almost looked like a great engage from Ale, but they're just too far behind.
Amy and Hard carried that fight. He played it so damn well. Initially getting all that burst onto Tarzan and then carrying as well. Now we get both objectives picked up for BLG. Dragon gonna set them onto Soul Point and the Baron as well. Now this 1-3-1 that we were talking about could even get even worse for LNG. Although as I say that, Zeka with no TP. But it doesn't matter. This is just so damn good. So already you can see how low Tarzan is before this fight even kicks off. And yes, you do get this great showstopper coming in from Ale, but the rest of the team not really in a position to follow up. Amy managed to snipe out so many of the team from the backline as well. Picks off the Kaisa, picks off the Ekko. Like, it was so well done by Amy. I don't think Oshida's realized he's muted himself, but he has.
I had muted myself because I needed to sneeze, and I started talking, and thank you for reminding me. The joys of remote production. But aiming, this man you highlighted just before we went into pick and ban, the carry that could be for the side of BLG. He's the guy that has been, you know, kind of touted as the potential one-man show for this side, and he has just stepped up in this game. They get Baron off of that play, they get themselves an Infernal Drake, which puts them onto Soul Point, so they are one Drake away, and now you have the Rabadon's Death Cap. Now you have
You've everything for Amy.
Yeah, you've everything right now. It's just, there's so much there. I've completely forgotten the name of the stacking spell item when you get kills. Magi's. God damn. I kept thinking Mikhail's spell book, and I was like, that's incorrect. But we can see now, BLG, they don't know that they're being scanned right now, and that means that this full death bush is very much not a surprise for the side of BLG, and we could be seeing a third game if they're able to close this one out. You can see the Qs coming out, just able to do so much onto Light. Light is on 3 items, however, so you do have to respect that. But for BLG, they can just push around either side, and they'll say that now. We can see BiuBiu getting caught out, all 5 people committing to him. He's going to buy a little bit of time with that stopwatch, but will end up falling. They will lose mid lane tier 3 and the inhibitor, but now the fight can happen after this. Icon and Tarzan are very, very low. I don't think you're going to be able to take the kills, but you're probably going to be able to take the base anyway.
Yeah, it looks like you'll at least get this bot turret, but I don't think you'll be able to get the inhibitor. You do get a lot here for BLG, although as I say that, they might be looking for more.
Ale goes in and gets himself a nice little bit of damage, and WeiWei just dies. Yes, they get the turret, but they lose another one. Another little bit of gold, another little bit of an advantage here for LNG. They're just picking away at this Baron buff, but you can see aiming. No one can touch him right now, and with Zeka in tow, there's just nowhere for them to go, and they get the inhibitor. Anyway, he goes in aggressively, has got a cleanse, but no flash for him. The redemption going to come down. Zeka coming back in off the distortion. Now ppgod has to get himself and the rest of his team away. Very aggressive from aiming, but calculated enough to know that he wouldn't die.
Still, you know, having to burn the cleanse after going in aggressive, I think that was a bit too far forward. You've already lost 2 members. No need to try and, like, keep that play going. They do get both inhibitors, though, and this kind of spells the last few nails in the coffin for LNG in this game, where, yes, we get this nice pick onto BiuBiu, but it doesn't really matter, right? At this stage, you've committed 4 members down to this bottom side. I mean, actually 5 in the end of it. So there's nobody defending your mid. And with the amount of damage that BiuBiu actually does get off thanks to the Divine Sunder, he's already done the damage. Like, LNG need to back away, and BLG can take 2.
Yep, they can reset, they can spend their gold, they can do whatever the hell they like. They do not care right now for the side of LNG and what their plans are. It's only a 5,000 gold lead, but the scaling you get with this Ezreal, the LeBlanc damage you have to respect, and of course the Viego as well, almost hitting his 3rd item, just becomes very, very difficult for pretty much anybody on the side of LNG to do anything. Look at that. A distortion into a Q and Light is almost dead.
And you've even got the Ezreal there to try and help finish him off. Not quite able to connect, but still, like, that's how dangerous this composition now is, as this last inhibitor turret, it's not long for the world.
Nope, not with a Ezreal picking away at it. We can see here now LNG, they don't really have any great engage apart from Sett. He's already used his flash, so you don't really have any guaranteed way of getting it on top of this. It's going to be all 3 inhibitors down now for the side of LNG, and what can BLG do about it? What can BLG do to try and just end this game? They're just taking it the nice slow way, pushing in all the waves, making sure they have as much of an advantage and try to pick someone off.
Yeah, there is literally nothing that you can do here as LNG, unless you get some wild misstep from BLG, but they're taking this so calmly.
Oh, Zeka did have a little bit of a misstep. There is the showstopper as we can see them going in. Massive shield there for Ale, but he is just not tanky enough. Tarzan tries to go in, goes golden, and you can see Icon putting down as much damage as possible. There's the parallel convergence to keep him alive. But there's just no more for you in the tank. There's just nothing you can do. BLG going to be able to take game 2. BLG going to be able to send us to a 3rd game as the TP from Zeka from base going to be able to solidify this one pretty damn easily. It was slow, it was methodical, it was a little bit resident sleeper, but nevertheless, as I say that, aiming in a little bit of trouble. Never mind, I'd lied to you all. He's not in trouble at all. Icon trying to be the savior for his team. There's just so much you can do here with this composition to keep yourself alive, and there's just nowhere for you to go. LNG lose game 2. BLG take us to game 3.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see there how difficult it is to deal with this BLG lineup when they get ahead. It was a slow game, it took a while to get rolling, but in the end, BLG are able to take the victory off of some phenomenal performances from that AD carry in Amy.
Yep, slow, methodical, did what they needed to do, and they got the scaling with the Ezreal. The Ezreal pick was just absolutely massive, but of course the positioning from aiming was just as big as well. And honestly, great win, great way to bounce back for BLG. And for LNG, that early game, it feels just like right now that, you know, Icon just can't really do much against Zeka.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard, right? Because in game 1, at least we had the Zeka taking the Sett. You don't really have a good matchup as the Lee Sin there. In this game as well, you end up going with the LeBlanc into that Lucian matchup. And with that Ignite, he couldn't really get anything done unless you're going to play around it as the whole of LNG. That's not really going to make things work for you. So we end up just seeing that he ends up falling behind with that 1 kill. And not only does it hurt his lane, it ends up hurting bot side of the map as well. And from the early plates that Amy was able to pick up, he got so damn far ahead. They get that Rift Herald into aiming. You could see at the end of the game, like, he's pushing his 6th item, which rarely happens in a competitive game. But he was like, already got his Frozen Heart, Divine Sunder, Serilda's Grudge, alongside that Muramana. Like, he was out DPSing everyone by the end of that game.
Yeah, he really was just a monster, and with the safety of having a Karma with you, of course, you know, Ezreal being a slippery champion in general, there's just no real way to kind of catch him out. You need to stop him before he gets going, and like I said, the avalanche that was coming down to hit LNG Village, and PLG just kind of smiling looking at it, and you look at the damage, like you mentioned it, but my god, 32,000 damage. He was just insane all game.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, and you could see that Light was struggling as well in that game. Once he started to fall behind, like he even opted into the rapid fire cannon, which was just going to do nothing. Like, if you're in a position where with this composition that's supposed to be diving with, you know, the Sett, the Ekko, and the Leona, and you have to go for a rapid fire cannon, the game's done at that stage. Like, you should never be in a position where you're feeling the need to buy that item, but unfortunately for LNG, they just could not stop this snowball from BLG.
No, well, luckily for LNG, they will have obviously another opportunity to try and take this series. And again, this is what we talked about, temperature check, a litmus check, if you will, or litmus test, excuse me, to, you know, see where these two teams stacked up. LNG 10th in spring, BLG in 12th. So these guys were very, very similar power. And with BLG coming in with a couple of upgrades, it does feel, even with game 1, that BLG are a little bit of the higher end of this particular, you know, matchup.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I mean, that's what game 3 is for, right? But certainly, I mean, we were talking about, you know, BLG. They have been doing quite well when we look at at least their scrims. They look quite well against EDG. And I think a lot of people are now excited to see just